Greetings, curious acolytes of the Force, students of this vast archives, and welcome back to the embrace of our knowledge or little archives. I have been expecting you. Today we shall be delving into two of the most powerful Jedi and Sith based on your interpretation of a Sith Lord of all time. Two of the most proficient blade masters, among, in my opinion, the top 10 most proficient blade masters and lightsaber users in all of Star Wars lore, both of them surpassing even Darth Sidious, highly acclaimed, possessing many accolades to be not only the most powerful and formidable Sith Lord of all time, but also the greatest Sith swordsmaster in history. In my opinion, these two swordmasters both best him in terms of lightsaber combat. These beings originally Jedi, one of them eventually fell to the seductive allure of the dark side. And yes, acolytes, if you have selected this video to educate you on the duel between the pioneer of Vapaad and the Makashi master, you will obviously know this refers to the Count of Sereno, Count Dooku, and the champion of the Jedi Order, and the prophesied chosen one before the rise of Anakin Skywalker, Mace Windu, famous for his amethyst-coloured blade. Both of these beings possess immeasurable potency in the Force as well as tremendous skill in lightsaber combat, placing them as one of the greatest duelists both of their time and in all of galactic history, with Dooku and Mace Windu being stated of being on par with one another at the end of the Clone Wars galaxy-wide conflict. Today we shall be delving in, assessing and analysing their power. However, this greatly interprets and deducts based on your definition of power. You may think power lies within the Force and their tremendous skill and mastery over it. We shall delve into that argument. We shall also delve into the argument of their lightsaber skills and proficiency. I shall be supplying what I believe the most comprehensive and analysation easy versus duel between Count Dooku and Mace Windu. With that out of the way, acolytes, all you must do now is ascend to the rank of master by striking down the subscribe button and fulfill your destiny. Good. With that out of the way, acolytes, let's begin. Beginning with Mace Windu. Mace Windu has dozen accolades, claiming him as one of the most powerful Jedi alive, and maybe the greatest swordmaster in the Order's entire history, with Obi-Wan Kenobi stating that Mace Windu's lightsaber skills were second only to Yoda during his time. Mace Windu described his form that he pioneered, called Vapaad, a form 7 lightsaber combat Juya that he had created to channel the dark side energies of his opponent through him, to the point where they essentially could fight forever, or Mace would be able to obtain the upper hand. Vapaad is as aggressive as it is powerful, as its namesake, but its power comes at great risk. Immersion in Vapaad opens a gaze that retains one in the darkness. To use Vapaad, a Jedi must allow himself to enjoy the fight. He must give himself over to the thrill of battle, the rush of winning. Vapaad is a path that leads through the prenebula of the dark side. This was Vapaad's ultimate test. Mace Windu described Vapaad as following. Having chosen the path of a Jedi Guardian, Mace Windu's training was mostly focused on mastering the art of lightsaber dueling, becoming an incredibly formidable and skilled warrior, and eventually considered to be one of the greatest swordsmen ever produced by the Jedi and Sith orders, considered one of the greatest duelers in all of galactic history. And among the greatest in his time, he was considered second only to the venerable Grandmaster Yoda in skill among the Jedi Order, although Dooku had once bested him in a friendly duel, with accolades claiming that Dooku was his only equal in the art of lightsaber combat. During the Clone Wars, Windu was considered to be the only one who could stand toe-to-toe with his former friend Jedi Master and neutral ground, despite Dooku, now Darth Tyrannus, having improved and bolstered his abilities further from his training with Darth Sidious. Indeed, he had proved to be able to duel Tyrannus evenly, forcing the Sith Lord to resort to calling upon his Magdadards to temporarily hold off Windu. However, this could be due to the fact Windu was 20 years younger than an older Dooku, who was 83 at the time of his death on the Invisible Hand, and Windu was only 63. Alongside Obi-Wan Kenobi, Windu managed to defeat Tyrannus on Before. Another display of Mace Windu's outstanding prowess in lightsaber combat was how he could overwhelm the droid cyborg General Grievous in single combat, a cyborg who had killed dozens of highly capable and esteemed Jedi in his time. and quickly overpower the assassin that was taught by Dooku, Asajj Ventress, in their first duel, though at the time he was going all out. He had held his own against an improved Ventress in their second encounter, even if they had been forced to end it prematurely by circumstantial and environmental factors. Though he stated that Depa Bilaba's blade work potentially surpassed his, and while she was even more formidable than she usually was, due to tapping into the deaths of many of Car Vastor's guards, Windu was still able to hold her off, and eventually lure her into destroying the spaceport signal jammer in their ferocity and ferociously intense duel. However, he clearly had put in great effort in fighting her, and was close to being defeated in this duel. Both combatants were severely hampered by physical weakness and fatigue that humans were subject to. Windu even had the capabilities to beat Sora Bulk in a lightsaber duel, despite his claims of having improved from having perfected Vapaad with immersion within the dark side of the Force. Windu even managed to draw the power and augment his skill from the current Dark Lord of the Sith, and with further amplification of Anakin Skywalker's fear, was able to disarm Darth Sidious himself, one of the greatest Sith swordmasters in all of galactic history, a feat only replicated by Grandmaster Yoda, widely regarded as the greatest duelist of his time, boosted by the power of his family, Grandmaster Luke Skywalker in Legends continuity during the Dark Empire comic series. He acknowledged that they would have fought to draw if Windu had not used Shatterpoint. Furthermore, he never truly realized that he was drawing upon Anakin Skywalker's fear at the time, as the Revenge of the Sith novelization states. Known for having fully mastered all 7 conceivable combat forms at the time of the Clone Wars, mastering every sense and technique of lightsaber combat, alongside Sora Bulk, Windu developed the deadly form of combat known as Vapaad, his most famous accolade and technique, the 7th form of combat, which completed to the Jedi the Juya form. Vapaad was named after the predator native to the moons of Sarapin, which intentionally was created to allow him and those he trusted with the form to channel the inner darkness swirling invisibly within them, and also that of the enemy to use against them with this form. Mace Windu was essentially invulnerable in lightsaber dueling, and was able to essentially defeat any dark side user, as esteemed and shown and replicated when he was able to immerse himself fully, achieving true Vapaad during his duel with Darth Sidious. Upon receiving further amplification from Anakin Skywalker's fear, Mace Windu was able to defeat the Dark Lord in single combat. Mace Windu was the only Jedi to fully master and completely perfect this style of Vapaad, although Quinlan Vos could count as a close second to this title. The other 2 practitioners of this style, Sora Bulk and Depa Bilaba, were unable to master its intricacies and proficiency. Instead, it mastered them, driving them insane and leading them to the seductive allure of the dark side. When Windu went to Haran Kal in search of Depa, he displayed masterful skill in the Jarkai style of fighting, effectively adapting Vapaad into dual-bladed combat. Although Windu primarily used Vapaad, he at times also applied his mastery of the other forms to supplant his use of the form with aspects from other forms. Now, let's move on to his immeasurable Force talents. Known to be one of the greatest Force users in the Jedi Order that had ever produced, Mace Windu's mastery and power in the Force was incredible, being almost insatiable and inconceivable to the public eye. He was known for his resistance to the laws of the dark side, channeling his inner darkness into his attacks to help him serve the light side of the Force and the Jedi Order and the Republic he loved so dearly. This allowed him to utilize some of the darkest powers known to either Jedi or Sith without succumbing to the aggression that he felt, such as the terrible Force crush that he utilized on General Grievous during the original Clone Wars series that ran in the early 2000s. His mastery of the form he created, Vapaad, also proved his devotion to the light, as the only other 2 advanced users, Depa Billaba and Sora Bulk, fell to the dark side. Master Windu was known to be able to ponder matters of the dark and light side of the Force with a clarity perhaps second only to Master Yoda during his time. Windu was known to only be highly proficient in using the Force to enhance the capabilities and augment the capabilities and abilities that his body possessed, and such was able to leap to great height and across enormous distances. On Haran Kal, he went toe-to-toe with Car Vastor and demonstrated incredible Force-enhanced speed and augmented acrobatics by landing 6 blows to the man's body before he could blink. However, for all his speed, he could not come to aid his fellow Jedi Masters in time, where Darth Sidious unleashed a horrific Force screen and caught them off guard, making the first move. On Dantooine, having lost his lightsaber, Windu took to tearing super battle droids apart with his bare hands, using the Force to shield him, showing incredible Force strength and resilience as he crushed the armor of the Separatist droid legions and tore out circuitry with his fingers. Another incredible feat of his body and physical appearance, demonstrated during the Battle of Dantooine, was riding a landslide of rock and earth weighing hundreds of tons. Machines were his to manipulate with the Force. The Corran Jedi Master's abilities skills with telekinesis were so extensive and vast that during the Battle of Ryloth, he was capable of force pushing a huge ATTE walker off of a cliff with apparent ease. He also demonstrated the ability to simultaneously levitate 2 clone troopers with the Force and move them swiftly across the length of the bridge while they were struggling to regain their footing. He also ripped down a gigantic door in order to destroy a Separatist tank and associated infantry support. In addition, Windu proved able to release a torrent of Force energy from his hand, capable of blasting several battle droids backwards and powerful enough to destroy them on impact with the ground. The range of his Force-thrown objects, such as B-2 battle droid, could reach almost 3 kilometers. He even telekinetically removed the bolts of a super battle droid during the Battle of Dantooine, allowing the droid to fall to pieces. He was immensely proficient in the application of the Force wave ability, and used it to an incredible degree in his time during the Battle of Dantooine and Coruscant, blasting away and instantly destroying dozens of droids in a single kinetic blast from his hand. He was among a group of Jedi who used the ability known as Force Bellow, commonly associated with the dark side, and Darth Sidious was unable to tell if he personally used his power to haul away the Red Rovers and break open the door to Palpatine's office. The Jedi Master also demonstrated an affinity for using darker telekinetic powers, mostly associated with the Sith, such as Force Grip and Force Crush, the latter of which he used to severely injure the fearsome General Grievous in the Battle of Coruscant. Aiding Windu throughout his life was also his Shatterpoint ability. Shatterpoint, another ability used by Cade Skywalker, Darth Krayt, 2 of the finest practitioners of this ability, a power he always had a natural affinity for. It allowed him to perceive and see weak points in opponents, events, and everyday life, and pour Force energy into them, allowing him to break even lightsaber-resistant objects and objects that were nigh invulnerable to any other opponent. This power also allowed the Jedi to shatter otherwise unbreakable objects and see weaknesses in duels, such as when he was using this ability during his duel with Palpatine. Windu's Shatterpoint ability proved vital to his victory over the Dark Lord of the Sith, Sidious, but he had to realize too late that the Shatterpoint was Anakin Skywalker's and not Sidious's own. With that out of the way, let's delve into the powers and abilities of the Countess Sereno, the Makashi Master, Count Dooku, and see how he compares up to the champion of the Jedi Order. A powerful man, and a man of formidable power that was exemplified and punctuated by a Sith-adopted name of Tyrannus. Dooku was a highly skillful and proficient lightsaber duelist even in his old age, considered one of the most proficient and finest sword masters the galaxy had ever seen. During his time as a Jedi, he was known as one of the Order's finest swordsmen. It was said that Yoda was his only superior during the end of the Clone Wars, and Mace Windu was his only equal in the art of lightsaber fencing. On Geonosis, Dooku was able to effortlessly defeat both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. However, he noted after Anakin Skywalker was amped by the dark side of the Force due to the conflict he felt and love for his master, he was much more skillful, as it was stated in the Revenge of the Sith novelization. Dooku was able to contend with Yoda, but elected to retreat when he was unable to defeat his former master in combat, proving that Yoda's saber skills were more powerful and proficient than his own. He would often prove to be an equal and even superior to Skywalker and Kenobi, even as their skill augmented and bolstered during the Clone Wars, dueling Skywalker on several occasions, proving to be a superior in blade work, until Skywalker, with Dooku now tired of the Clone Wars due to his old age, and Skywalker was powerful enough, tapping into the dark side after Dooku was toying and pressing the source code of his emotions. Dipping into the dark side, he was powerful enough to overcome the Count, among the most skilled swordsmen in the entire galaxy, and the galaxy had ever seen. Dooku was a practitioner of the second form of lightsaber combat, centric about lightsaber to lightsaber dueling. conversed and created around the time of the Second Great Schism, when the Jedi Order saw rebellion from a junta Paul, and the conflicts such as the 100-Year Darkness broke out, where the Jedi finally had lightsaber-wielding combatants to face up against. Makashi was designed specifically for lightsaber-to-lightsaber duels. As such, it was considered obsolete in the time of the High Republic, where Dooku was trained, and when most Jedi were more likely to face a blaster-wielding opponent, like a bounty hunter or a mercenary. The style's rarity gave Dooku an advantage in combat when engaging in lightsaber duels, as few of his enemies were trained to defend themselves against it and counter it. Makashi relied on precision, swiftness, and the economy of the movement. Dooku implied that Makashi was a gentleman's way of fencing, and that the gem slow was sloppy and a quick and cheap way of using lightsaber combat, looking down on Anakin Skywalker's own choice of the gem slow. And Dooku's curved hilt constructed lightsaber was designed especially for precision and economy of movement that Makashi specialized in. Dooku mastered Makashi greater than any other being had ever in the galaxy's history, to such a degree that he was considered the finest practitioner of the form to ever exist. He was also capable of effectively making up for its weaknesses, such as dueling multiple opponents simultaneously, and using it against multiple blaster-wielding opponents. With it being designed for lightsaber-centric duels, it was weaker against blaster fire, but Dooku, having mastered the form to its highest degree, was able to compensate for these weaknesses and even surpass them. In addition to his formidable and lightsaber skills during the Clone Wars, Dooku was very knowledgeable and skilled in the use of the Force. He demonstrated great prowess and strength in the use of telekinesis, believed to inherit the Jedi Order after the death of Grandmaster Yoda, if the need ever arose, during his duels with the Asajj Ventress and his escape from Hondo's pirates. He displayed immeasurable skill at using telekinesis in finer, more precise tasks than the likes of Darth Maul and Savage Opress, such as disarming Ventress, while also levitating her against the wall during her failed attempt to assassinate him with the likes of Savage Opress, her secret assassin. He was even capable of telekinetically manipulating people's motor skills and their minds, feeding off their anxiety and fear. Dooku had a calm demeanor and political influence, hailing from the noble house of Sereno, that served him better than Mace Windu and any lightsaber skills ever could. His political influence was on par with that of Darth Sidious, being born into the noble Sereno families and becoming a count of his home world. He was not only a Jedi, a Sith, he was also a royal count of Sereno, giving him tremendous political power and making him seem like a benevolent senator on the wrong side of the Clone Wars and Separatist conflict. He also employed skills and dark side techniques, such as when he force choked while simultaneously forcing Torque Falso to take out his blaster and shoot his comrade, while he performed a similar feat when he made Padme Amidala aim and shoot and kill Beck Louise. Dooku was highly skilled and proficient in the practice and dark side technique, considered to be its staple ability of Force Lightning, unleashing blue veins of lightning. While blue is considered to be one of the lesser variations and colours of Force Lightning, Dooku's proficiency in it was such he could make steam curl from Anakin Skywalker's hands and his entire body when inflicted. However, Dooku was unable to penetrate Yoda's Tutaminas. However, throughout the Clone Wars, Dooku had proved that he had the ability to incapacitate and subdue and enrage, albeit dark-side-amped Anakin Skywalker during their duels, such as when in the Bounty Hunter arc, where Kenobi, disguised as Rhaegar Hardeen, infiltrates and attempts to stop and thwart a plan designed to kidnap the Supreme Chancellor. Dooku uses Force Lightning to subdue Anakin Skywalker and play with his emotions. Dooku used Force Lightning as both a means of torture and execution, similar to his master Darth Sidious, although his proficiency with this ability was nowhere near the rivalry of his master. Able to use it in conjunction with telekinesis, usually to send a person flying with his lightning or even to levitate his opponents while using his lightning on them, as he demonstrated on Ventress and two other Night Sister assassins, cloaked in invisibility, with Dooku's own blindness, believing them to be Jedi, cloaked by Mother Talzin, the most powerful Night Sister to ever live, and someone who was able to duel and contend with Darth Sidious pre-time skip during the Clone Wars, and at its pretty much peak before the rise of the Galactic Empire. A tremendous feat. Dooku, however, has been confirmed to be weaker than Talzin, as Dooku was nowhere near the skill of his master, and Talzin was able to contend with it. In my opinion, and from my deductions, Dooku possessed not only a greater political power due to being born in the noble house of Sereno than Mace Windu, but also having possessed a greater lightsaber mastery, but only just. Dooku completely dedicated his life, around 80 years of his existence, being able to best a Jedi Master when he was a mere Padawan in the light of lightsaber combat. Mace Windu can simply not compare to these accolades and feats. However, Mace Windu is still remarked as one of the Order's finest swordsmen, and considered the only one who could duel Dooku to a standstill without outright proving to be his superior, such as Yoda could, the Grand Master of the Order, at the time. So, in conclusion, who do I believe is the more powerful of these two Knights of the Order, and later a Dark Lord of the Sith? Well, in summing up, I believe that the more powerful being is Mace Windu. Mace Windu's ability to perceive shatter points would allow him in a duel to see the weaknesses and flaws in Makashi, such as dueling multiple opponents at once. It made him significantly weaker to Ataru, a form that Mace Windu had practiced and used in the past. Ataru was centric on dueling multiple opponents at once, employing high acrobatics. Another thing that Mace Windu was highly impressive with, augmenting his speed and skill to use acrobatics. Dooku's proficiency in the blade might have been better than Mace Windu's, but as we have seen on screen and in Legend continuity just far, Dooku was old and tired at the end of the Clone Wars, and while he was able to contend with Master Yoda, this simply isn't enough. Mace Windu's skill of Vapaad allowed him to channel the Darksider's energy. This, combined with Dooku's age of 83 years old at the time of his death, Vapaad being able to channel Dooku's Darkside energy would make Mace Windu the unquestioned victor. However, it would be highly contested. In short, I believe that if these two met on a deserted battlefield, Dooku would only gain the edge if he happened to use Force Lightning and kill Mace Windu before he had the ability to fully immerse himself in Vapaad. Otherwise, Mace Windu beats him 8 times out of 10. However, this is a very close debate. Well, with this final duel out of the way, comment down below who you want to see duel next. I know this is a highly speculated and contested debate on who is more proficient in and more powerful in lightsaber combat and the Force between these two former Knights of the Jedi Order, one dedicating his life to the Jedi and the other being trained by the most powerful Jedi and Sith of his age. Goodbye, acolytes. Ascend to the rank of Master and strike down the subscribe button, and I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away.